Welcome back to another video of Ask.We. Today, let me reveal about Chernobyl disaster. It is a large story to tell, so to the video. Chernobyl disaster accident in 1986 at the Chernobyl nuclear power station in the Soviet Union, the worst disaster in the history of nuclear power generation. The Chernobyl power station was situated at the settlement of Pripyat, 10 miles northwest of the city of Chernobyl in Ukraine. The station consisted of 4 reactors, each capable of producing 1000 megawatts of electric power. It had come online in 1977 to 83. The disaster occurred on April 25, 1986, when technicians at Reactor Unit 4 attempted a poorly designed experiment. Workers shut down the reactor's power regulating system and its emergency safety systems, and they withdrew most of the control rods from its core while allowing the reactor to continue at 7% power. These mistakes were compounded by others, and at 1:23 am on April 26, the chain reaction in the core went out of control. Several explosions triggered a large fireball and blew off the heavy steel and concrete lid of the reactor. This and the ensuing fire in the graphite reactor core released large amounts of radioactive material into the atmosphere, where it carried great distances by air currents. A partial meltdown of the core also occurred. On April 27, the 30,000 inhabitants of Pripyat began to be evacuated. A cover-up was attempted, but on April 28, Surdis monitoring stations reported abnormally high levels of wind-transported radioactivity and posed for an explanation. The Soviet government admitted there had been an accident at Chernobyl, thus setting off an international outcry over the dangers posed by the radioactive emissions. By May 4th, both the heat and the radioactivity leaked from the reactor ore were being contained, albeit at a great risk to workers. Radioactive debris was buried at some temporary sites, and later in the year, the highly radioactive reactor ore was enclosed in a concrete and steel sarcophagus, which was later deemed structurally unsound. Some sources state that 2 people were killed in the initial explosions, whereas others report that the figure was closer to 50. Dozens more contracted serious radiation sickness. Some of these people later died. Between 50 and 185 million curies of radionuclides or radioactive forms of chemical elements escaped into the atmosphere, several times more radioactivity than that created by the Calumet bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. This radioactivity was spread by the wind over Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine, and soon reached as far west as France and Italy. Millions of acres of forest land and farmland were contaminated, and although many thousands of people were evacuated, hundreds of thousands more remained in contaminated areas. In addition, in subsequent years, many livestock were born deformed, and among humans, several thousand radiation-induced illness and cancer deaths were expected in the long term. The Chernobyl disaster sparked criticism of unsafe procedures and design flaws in Soviet reactors, and it heightened resistance to the building of more such plants. Chernobyl Unit 2 was shut down after a 1991 fire, and Unit 1 remained online until 1996. Chernobyl Unit 3 continued to operate until 2000, when the nuclear power station was officially decommissioned. Following the disaster, the Soviet Union created a circle-shaped exclusion zone with a radius of about 30 kilometers centered on the nuclear power plant. The exclusion zone covered an area about 2,634 square kilometers around the plant. However, it was later expanded to 4,143 square kilometers to include heavily radiated areas outside the initial zone. Although no people actually live in the exclusion zone, scientists, scavengers, and others may file for permits that allow them to enter for limited amounts of time. So, this was the exact true story about this disaster which shook the world, and today is the remembrance of this day. So, to know more about this kinds of knowledge capsules, subscribe our channel and enable all notification by clicking the bell icon. So keep watching Ask Why. Until the next video, goodbye to all our subscribers and viewers.